Do you believe that you should have a problem-free life just because you're on a spiritual path? If you think this is true, I've got some bad news for you. You'll always have challenges as long as you inhabit a physical body. Some people believe that God will magically take all their problems away once they commit to the spiritual journey. They bought into the illusion that everything should be a piece of cake just because they're working on becoming spiritually enlightened. But the truth is vastly different. And when these individuals confront reality head-on, it hits them with the force of 1,000 meteors crashing into the sun. All life forms, from the tiniest microorganisms to apex predators, face myriad challenges daily. Obstacles and adversity are part of the evolutionary process. Without them, nothing can grow. Everything stagnates and falls into decay. A seed fights against incredible odds to send out shoots in a harsh and desolate desert. Salmon swim upstream, driven by a primal instinct to return to their ancestral grounds and spawn. Butterflies struggle to break free from their chrysalises so that they can evolve into a higher stage of being. It's the same with humans. Once we embark on a spiritual path, we not only have the same problems we had before, but sometimes they worsen. New hardships arise with no end in sight as we plunge into the dark night of the soul. To paraphrase Churchill, it's one damn thing after another. Want to know a secret? Challenges are features, not bugs. They pull you into an intense state of presence, total immersion in the eternal now. This is the place where problems are non-existent. From a higher spiritual perspective, this makes problems a good thing. The world uses every trick in the book to pull you out of presence. After all, that's its job. No sooner than you recover from COVID, you get sued by your former business partner, or have to deal with a furnace that chose to quit on you during the coldest day in January. Life will never leave you alone. So, get rid of the belief that life is challenging. You're just creating unnecessary resistance, which not only creates problems where none exist, but causes pain. The truth is that life isn't difficult. It just is. We'll continue to suffer until we realize that spirituality isn't about having an easy life. It's about dissolving our ego. That's the only way we can attain unity consciousness, which is what we need to move towards if we want to be free. Once we reach this stage of our journey, we see that trials and tribulations aren't necessarily bad. The more you buy into the belief that life is challenging, the more you cement this untruth in your mind. And because you choose to live life this way, your existence becomes more difficult than it needs to be. Would you rather live in the world as it actually is, or a fictional version where you create boatloads of unnecessary suffering for yourself? By choosing the latter, you'll be in a continual state of resistance. It's better to drop it. That way, you'll embrace everything that happens without labeling it as good or bad. Most challenges come about not from external events, but from the stories we tell ourselves about them. Your mind loves manufacturing problems, transforming situations that aren't inherently bad into worst-case scenarios. Problems help us to become more of who we are at our core. That way, we can evolve into the creatures of unparalleled light we were destined to become, even before the Big Bang. We didn't incarnate on the physical plane to be happy, but to be conscious. And that's impossible to do without problems. You might not realize that you chose to incarnate on the physical plane. In other words, there are other schools in other dimensions where you could have gotten your learning. But you chose the earthly dimension because it forces you to carry around a dense physical body while trying to navigate the complexities of the material universe. And because that's more challenging than being a disembodied spirit in the ineffable realm, you have more opportunities to evolve. You wanted to experience life on the earthly plane because you needed the kinds of challenges that could only be found there. These obstacles are designed to erode your ego, like waves crashing into an ancient building that has outlived its usefulness. Even if you manage to shut yourself off from human misery in an opulent palace where you enjoy abundant riches and the abiding love of the partner of your dreams, suffering would still find you. There's nowhere to hide. The palace, once a sanctuary, morphs into a gilded cage. The person who made you happy yesterday makes you miserable today. The riches that used to excite you once upon a time now fill you with soul-sucking boredom and an overwhelming sense of ennui. If we let them, challenges can force us into an intense state of presence, total immersion in the eternal now. That's vastly preferable to the alternative, holding ever more tightly to a fictitious version of ourselves. This can cause a hardening of our egoic shells and more suffering. Once you realize that life is meant to be challenging, you free yourself from the misconception that something has gone horribly wrong when so-called bad things happen. The realization that the world isn't here to make you happy, it's here to make you conscious, lights up your brain like a Christmas tree set ablaze. When you see things from this perspective, every situation becomes an opportunity to evolve. Because you no longer create problems that don't exist, you free up energy you can use to accelerate your spiritual journey. If you want to develop this mindset, start with something small, such as how you react when they screw up your Starbucks order. Instead of telling yourself it shouldn't be happening, be grateful that it did. Even death won't be a big deal once you become sufficiently enlightened. If you find out your time on the planet is coming to an end, you'll refuse to see it as a problem. Instead, you'll use it as an opportunity to become intensely present. You'll be blessedly free from worry, replaced by a vibrant sense of aliveness. Then, you'll experience something 1,000 times more satisfying than transitory happiness, the joy that arises when you realize you're not an isolated fragment adrift on a lonely and desolate sea. Instead, you'll see yourself as an integral part of the divine energy permeating creation. It's like the ancient Sufi proverb, "When the ego weeps for what it has lost, the spirit rejoices for what it has found." Sometimes, people who encounter unbearable tragedy, such as losing all of their worldly possessions or the loss of loved ones, are forced into an intense state of presence. These individuals consider this kind of loss the best thing to ever happen to them. While you might not want to go this far, be grateful for every bad thing that comes into your life. That's because, whether you know it or not, all that transpired in your life has helped you become the person you were meant to be. So, look at so-called problems from a state of no thought. If you let thought rush in too quickly, spiritual solutions will always elude you. Instead, allow solutions to arise out of presence. If you intuitively feel action is possible at that moment, take it. And because it arises out of presence, it'll be the right choice out of the infinite number of choices you could have made. If no action is possible, remain in the eternal now moment. People sometimes have an overpowering desire to do something when confronted by a situation they perceive as a problem. However, sometimes not taking action is the best thing you can do. Otherwise, you'll only make things worse. Once you elevate your consciousness, you'll be able to see how every challenge is grist for the mill, a glorious opportunity to deepen your awareness. This is the stage of your spiritual journey where you welcome problems with open arms. We'll end this video by asking, do you want to live in a world of endless adversity, or one where problems cease to have any power over you? Evolve your consciousness, and the latter scenario will be your everyday reality.